Hello, world. Today's guest is a marketing and business development executive with extensive professional experience spanning over 15 years. He's famous for his time spent at Medallia, the world leader in customer experience management software, and Panaya, Infosys's portfolio SaaS-based change intelligence solution. And he has vast experience including go-to-market strategies, product market fit, demand gen, brand building, digital transformation, mobile and social media management, and establishment of global marketing and sales teams, both in the B2B as well as B2C industries. And if that's not impressive enough, he also provides CMO advisory services, tactical and strategic consulting for early stage up to enterprise level ventures, as well as being a sought out keynote speaker, lecturer, and workshop facilitator in the fields ranging between marketing, technological innovation, social networks, and growth in startups. Please join me in welcoming Dekel Wiesman, the current VP of Marketing of Trend Demon, to the show. Dekel, are you ready to get radically transparent with me?
I'm born ready, Jen.
I love it. I love a good radically transparent conversation. And, I have to confess, I've been counting down the days for this because you just have such an interesting background. So with that said, could you just quickly give us a brief look at Dekel and your brief professional journey, and how you found yourself over at Trend Demon as the VP marketing?
Yeah, I mean, my story is quite unique. My childhood dream in terms of profession was to be a journalist. And I started my career looking at different media channels where I can professionally grow. So I tasted a bit of all, I've been a bit in the radio, I've been in the TV, and then writer and a reporter in a newspaper. And then I kind of found my way to online media. And since I was covering tech and a lot of startups and in Israel mostly, I kind of fell in love with that field. And I said, why do I do that from outside? I have to be a part of it. And the place I most kind of fit in was in marketing. So kind of my career led me into the tech world. And then I found myself in the sweet spot that I'm today, helping startups and helping tech companies succeed and achieve their goals. And I'm very happy and lucky that this career path led me to where I'm today.
Well, the industry is certainly lucky to have you. And for those watching in on YouTube, you'll see this really awesome hot pink, black, white logo next to Dekel. And, it's proud representation of Trend Demon, where you're currently at. In one quick sentence or elevator pitch, if you will, what value does Trend Demon bring to your customers?
So Trend helps convert more of your anonymous website visitors into sales opportunities. So we're actually very connected to the to business success and not just leads or MQLs or whatever. So think about it as how can your website actually impact your business?
So we're going to circle back to that, how your website can impact business. We're going to circle back to, get those leads to the website, then what mindset. But until we get there, I want to ask you, as a VP marketer, as a seasoned marketer, as someone who works daily with CMOs, what is currently keeping you up at night professionally?
So I would say, out of all the things you can imagine, I'll give it a title as problem solving, right? So there's a lot of challenges, both technological challenges with today's, software and data and all the things that come in together, as well as, solving problems for my own business and solving problems for our clients, and that kind of is an ongoing thing that I think about a lot, and keeps me up, pretty much these days.
Yeah, there's definitely no shortage of problems in marketing. And I had a colleague who once had said to me, "Hey, Jen, there are no such thing as problems, only challenges waiting to be solved. And who doesn't love a good challenge, right?" But then it sounds like, one too many can certainly be the tipping point to keep you up. You mentioned data and kind of sifting through it, what would you say would be the biggest challenge for you right now with, technology? You mentioned technology, data. Like, what if you had to call out one challenge?
Yeah, I think since a lot of solutions today and a lot of, especially in the marketing technologies, the martech industry, a lot of vendors provide data, and they're like the gold standard for data as far as they're concerned. But when it all comes together, and that's a good question, from a VP or CMO level perspective, is okay, so what's the source of truth? If I need to choose one single source of truth, what would it be? If everything was aligned, absolutely, 100%, then that wouldn't be a challenge. But unfortunately, that's not how I see things today. And I hear from many of my colleagues, okay, so fine. Do I look at solution A as my single source, or solution B, or where does it come together? So I would say, one of my challenges from a tech and data perspective is to make everything speak the same language, and even if it's an integration, so that first of all, that I can trust it, the data that I'm looking at, and then so that my stakeholders or my clients, can also look at that and agree that, okay, so everything is well connected.
Yeah. So that's interesting there, right? Because you need your MarTech stack, and you need all of your technology to be speaking the same language in order to essentially attempt right, to find that single source of truth. And that could be why you're coined in the industry as the customer experience guru, right? Because in order to create an impeccable, second to none customer experience, you really need to make sure all of your systems are speaking together. You need to really understand that journey. And to zoom out as marketers, right? We spend a lot of time getting people back, to our website. And as we mentioned earlier, right? I would almost argue that today it's a little bit easier to get people to the website. But Dekel, right? Once we get them to our website, then what? Like, what are some of the strategies that you're using or you've put in place to take your customers through that second to none journey once you understand how they're getting to your website, and what do you do?
So I'm happy actually that you asked that, Jen. I think that that's one of the the $1 million question I get asked the most before I joined Trendyman, and obviously today, because a lot of people get their visitors or their audience to the website, and that's kind of like where their link to that ends, and they don't have a lot of visibility what happens. And just just as a small anecdote, I get to ask a lot of people, how's your website performance? And that's a question that there is no kind of a benchmark. They either say good meaning what, or they say bad, and then bad meaning what, but there's not a lot of we're talking about radically transparent, not a lot of transparency over there. So what my kind of strategy to deal with that challenge is to take a very pragmatic approach. So first of all, I would say step one, okay, you want to identify who's on your website, identify the visitors, and then identify the account if you're on an account-based marketing approach, and see what can you learn about that. And then once you identify, either if it's through data that you have in your marketing automation, your CRM, and the connection to other vendors and providers, then you want to segmentize. So you first need to understand what's the right segmentation to your business. Okay, meaning whether they're customers, prospects, or whether they're different lines of business, different product portfolio, what have you. And then the next step would be to build an audience based on that. Okay, so now that you know who's coming, what's the characterization of these audience or this persona? If you're looking at a person base or an account base, then you would have to build an audience. And then once you build an audience, it makes your life much easier. Then it's just left to target them. You target them on your website, on your offshore channels, on your social media, on your paid campaigns, and everywhere. And then the last piece of it is to to personalize their experience. And this is very important because a lot of people and a lot of professionals look from the business perspective. I would advise, to try to think and look from the customer or the visitor perspective. What content would they like to consume? What interests them? Where do you think that they'll engage the most? And then, like, last piece of the puzzle is to measure that. And if you can measure that, you'll see the impact growing to your business.
So I love that journey. I'm going to throw a curveball at you now. The curveball is this, right? Looking back, and it can be at Trend Demon or it could be at any other organization that you've been at, but when you've started to understand your audience or their journey, or kind of map out what was actually happening once they've landed on the site, was there anything that had surprised you about the audience that maybe, as a marketer, I know we like to hypothesize a lot. Was there anything that kind of surprised you or stood out that you wouldn't have otherwise known if you didn't do that journey map?
Yeah, I think that through mapping the buyer journey, you see that, and our data supports that only 10% on an average of the content actually gets consumed throughout the journey. So people produce today a lot, especially B2B, produce a lot of content, but when they try to start to analyze it, they see that only the 10% of the content get consumed, and then
breaking my heart. It's breaking my heart.
So I think that to your question here, the biggest challenge to everybody would be to identify what 10% of the content and then double down on that and produce more content like that.
Makes sense. Thanks for taking that curveball with ease. So I want to switch over to an area of expertise, on the Oktopost side, but social media, right? I just read something on LinkedIn that came out of a report that in 2022, the most sought after jobs in demand right now are social media managers and digital marketers. And earlier you had shared that one of the problems keeping you up at night, if you will, is, how do you solve the issue, let's say, of social, or when it comes to paid versus organic, right? It's a challenge. We all know the world of paid social presents its own unique challenges, and same with organic. But what are some of the biggest challenges you're currently encountering with paid, and how are you overcoming them? Because those can be some big challenges. And let's face it, we all know, right? Paid isn't always the be all end all when it comes to success of getting the leads you need.
So let's break it down. First of all, I see an equation on what that has on one end, the paid versus organic question, and on the other hand, it has the earned versus owned media.
Oh, challenge. Throwing a curveball back at me, Dekel.
Yeah. So I think that social itself is a channel, okay, is a place that people usually tend not to look for solution. It's traditionally considered a top of the funnel, but what we see is that it's way more than that, because people go in and out. Mapping journeys we discussed earlier. There's no linear line in mapping a buyer journey in the world today, and people are engaging at first on social media, then it can go back to your own media channels, such as your website, your blog, your mobile app, whatever, and then they come back to social for looking for proof, right? And for gaining more support from audience or communities, and that's I think that to your question, as long as the challenges of paid versus organic, you have to first put a measurement in store, and then every business is very unique. Some businesses succeed very well only from organic. They have great content, spot on. They know their audience. They know what drives engagement. Other companies would put an effort on paid media, but even if so, they have to drive people to places where they like to engage with them. So if you maintain the right balance between the paid and the organic, as well as the earned versus the owned, I don't think that one can replace the other, but a good balance that is customized and tailored to your business needs, then you'll see success from these activities.
I like that you threw out the earned versus owned. I think that's a very relevant conversation to be had. And we can certainly do a part 2 episode simply on that topic.
Yeah, and you know what we discovered in these terms? We actually look at your company's website as a sandbox for content experiments, right? So you can gather your insights based on the content you have on your website or on your blog, and then get very meaningful data that you can take outside or offshore. And I would recommend everyone listening to this podcast to do their experiments of content on their website before they go on to social media. And that can help with their social media strategy. They can help with their campaign strategy if they sponsor content, if they pay for distributing the content on other channels as well. So that's good advice. I'm happy to share.
That's a hot tip if I've ever heard one. Could you say it one more time? Just say it, say that piece of advice one more time.
Yeah, so look at your website as a sandbox, experiment with it, and then take that out to your social media strategy and to your paid campaign strategy, and look what content works, and then just multiply it on your other channels outside the website.
I love that. Dekel, that's brilliant advice. So I hope everyone listening wrote that down, underline, star, highlight, whatever you need to do. That's a great tip. So as marketers, as seasoned leaders, right? Hindsight is always 2020. And if you think back for a moment about your career, about being a VP marketer, about paid versus, organic, earned versus owned, if you knew now what you knew, or sorry, if you knew then what you know now in terms of social media, what would you have done differently, if anything, sooner?
I think that what happened recently, maybe because people got more educated on technology and marketing technology solutions, as well as the impact of COVID, work from home, etc., is that people became more aware of their anonymity, and I think that they care more about their privacy as well. And you see that both on social media and as well as other aspects of our life. Taking some stats out here, we today 80% of journeys overall are anonymous. And then looking, I think more than 40% of website journeys are anonymous. I guess that the similar data on social media. So if you kind of put a gate or put a form or just try to get people information on a sneaky way, and that's me being very radically transparent with you, it's just not going to work. In 2022, it's not going to work. It might have worked on some levels in 2020, but today it's going to be very challenging. And there's two ways to look at it today. One way is that we don't want to force people to provide information. If people want to keep their anonymity, they can do that, and we respect privacy. And once people are ready, they can share their information, or even engage with your business solutions. Mm-hmm. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that you can do a lot with data coming from intent, such as account-based marketing intent, such as analytics, and you can learn a lot about your customer or about your prospect just based on that. So you don't have to, get someone, propose on the first date. I like to say that you don't propose on the first date with your web visitor or with your social media audience, and let it build a relationship, and then you can define your business much better and impact it.
I would have to agree. I think that's some great advice as well, because for a while, I think we were so obsessed with identifying the who, which, don't get me wrong, we still want to do as marketers, but I think now we almost respect that anonymous journey. We go with it. We understand what type of journey that looks like, but it's okay if it's anonymous. So thanks for calling that out. I have two more questions for you. So
Sure.
the next question, I'm just so curious because I know at Trendyman, you've just started there. Congratulations. And you're already rocking it. If you're not already following Dekel on LinkedIn, I highly suggest it. But what would you say is your top tip for a VP marketer starting in a new role in 2022?
Today, more than ever, I would say you have to learn a lot and learn multidisciplinary fields of your business. So one thing very important, especially if you're in a B2B software company, is learn the product, be the best expert of the product. You know, we call it SME in a lot of our businesses, subject matter expert. Be a subject matter expert on your product and learn, you know, the pros and the cons of it. Second, I would say learn your audience. I mean, that's always important, you know. But try to put yourself on their shoes, look at their pains, look at their needs, and then obviously see the opportunities between product and consumer or product and user. And then that's where the sweet spot is. And a lot of initiatives, especially when you're new at the role, comes from that because you have an out of the box perspective on the business since you just joined, you know, everyone with their own experience. And I think that I see that today in my role. I see a lot of opportunities opening up just based on what I learned and what I know now 2 months in. And I would recommend everyone to do that. So if it means, you know, hold your horses a bit before you attack the market, before you launch a lot of initiatives, take that time, and it's very important.
I love it. So I'm going to close the show on my absolute favorite question, right? Because we were talking earlier about social media and, you know, data, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't socially stalk you before this episode to learn as much as I could about you so I would know how to craft the show. But I'm curious to know, Dekel, what's one thing you can tell us about yourself that if we were to head on over to LinkedIn, we wouldn't know from just your LinkedIn profile?
So I think, and that's interesting, fun fact, and that may be the linkage that I have between Trendyman and Oktopost. So I've been a user and one of the first customers of both Oktopost and Trendyman in 2015. Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun fact. And I knew the product before I knew the company, both companies. And I'm very proud, you know, that I was lucky enough to experiment with a very, very premature version of Oktopost, which is a great, you know, solution that I love using today, and as well as Trendyman and a lot of earlier versions. And today, you know, you would completely not recognize Trendyman 5 or 6 years later.
Phenomenal. I think that definitely goes to show just how enthusiastic you are about startups, taking the risk, right? joining on board, getting another product when they're really just, you know, in the infancy. But I'm proud to have had you as one of our very first customers. And I look forward, you know, to future conversations. Dekel, thanks so much for joining. If anyone listening would like to learn more about Trendyman, your thoughts in terms of, you know, buyer journeys, social media, earned versus owned, where is the best place somebody can connect with you?
LinkedIn, number one place. I mean, I'm very avid LinkedIn user, and feel free to hit connect, you know, and I'd love to have a conversations with anyone on that platform, or we take it away offline.
Fantastic, Dekel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks for tuning in to the Radically Transparent podcast brought to you by Oktopost, the only social media management and employee advocacy platform architected for B2B. I'm Jennifer Gutman, your host and director of social strategy here at Oktopost. And if you love today's show, we'd love if you subscribe, rate, and give a raving review wherever you get your podcasts. For more discussion on B2B social media marketing, be sure to follow Oktopost on LinkedIn. And of course, to gain access to all our free social media marketing and employee advocacy resources, head on over to our website, www.oktopost.com. Until next time.